controller had told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space.
Is there a correlation between any of the characteristics of these UAPs, UFOs?
What we tend to see are the smaller vehicles tend to be, think of a sports car. The large ones tend to be, not always, but almost exclusively either triangular shape or boomerang shape.
Werewolves? I see dead people walking around like regular people. They don't see each other. They only see what they want to see. They don't know they're dead.
The UFO, UAP community was fairly surprised. Shocked might be a better word.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came to some of these recoveries.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human.
Do you think there is life on other planets?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but I suppose there would be.
Oh, I've seen a flying saucer.
You've seen one?
Yes,
Where
definitely. At Lyon Cove.
When was it?
1953.
You don't think this is a figment of your imagination?
Several other people with me saw it.
I'm not using it or that's with my hat.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
There is now a new UFO whistleblower with some major bombshell-level statements.
There is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
This episode is brought to you by some amazing people. Mecca Mickey, Jason Finch, Timoth Man, Sir Brian Bowden, Jay Grove, Intergalactic Wrangler, Kelly Lewis, Patrick O'Leary, Multifaceted Jules, Shelley Montgomery, Aaron's Energy 313, Eric Booth, The Diz Loki, Nathan from the Quantum Show, Gary T, T-Bone, Richard Harrison, Eddie Tab, Diane Boss, and Jeanette Angel. And a special thank you to all of our subscribers on YouTube, on Spotify, and on Rumble. If you wish to support the podcast, you can hit the join button below to become an Eyes to That Sky member. Or if you want to join our Patreon or provide other support, the links are below in the show description. But now, on with the show. Welcome to the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast, where we explore the unexplained and mysterious phenomena that have occurred throughout the state of Michigan and beyond.
From UFO sightings to ghostly encounters, we delve deep into the stories, the evidence, and the theories behind these strange events.
We are your hosts. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Wayne.
We are an educator duo that after an encounter with a triangular UFO in 2018 in Michigan, we decided to investigate UFOs and the paranormal. In this podcast, we will be speaking with eyewitnesses, experts, and researchers to uncover the truth about some of the most intriguing cases of paranormal activity in and around Michigan.
Our goal is not to convince anyone of the existence of these phenomena, but rather to provide a platform for discussion and exploration. So, buckle up and join us on this journey down the paranormal rabbit hole.
on an escalator.
All right. Hello, everyone. It is Saturday, May 17th, not Sunday, 2025, and we're coming to you from deep inside our bunker in the shadow of the great Motor City, Detroit, Michigan, on a gray and cool night as we get ready to talk with you about some of the most captivating and mysterious paranormal and UFO cases in Michigan, as well as talk about a few creepy stories that have been floating around the internet for some time.
Yeah.
So go grab a drink, grab a snack, and don't worry. We'll wait for you. Go ahead.
Man, it is not just about Michigan tonight. And I think I've given myself some heartburn and an upset stomach looking into one particular thing, because I was kind of shocked that they took this item on a little display tour, but
yes,
it kind of all makes sense now.
You will see what we're talking about here. You will not believe it, or maybe you will. I don't know, but things are getting a little crazy out there in the paranormal world. But so, anyways, get ready, because we're gonna dive in to some Michigan and some other paranormal lore and goodies. But Michelle, take it away.
Remember that if you have a story that you would like to share with us, or if you need to get a hold of us at the page, you can email us at mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com.
That's right. And also, if you want to support the podcast and the live stream, you can do so with PayPal, Super Chats, buy us a coffee, check out our merchandise store, or join the Patreon. All of those links can be found down below, over there somewhere,
and
in the description.
And don't forget, don't just click the like button, smash that like button.
Right.
Share us out tonight.
Right.
Subscribe to the channel.
Yes, because we're your guests tonight, just so you guys know.
Yeah, no interviews. We've been
busting our behinds today a little bit,
digging around in some things that interest us.
That's right.
Maybe crossed into some realms that maybe my stomach shouldn't have.
Yeah, I think you got yourself a little worked up there.
Yeah,
but it'll be okay.
Start digging.
Yes. Let's see, where are we at? Oh, remember, you can also find this show on audio podcast host everywhere. Look us up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, among others. Get over there and follow the audio version of the show and leave us a review. It helps us grow.
So, and for next Sunday, May 25th, we know it's Memorial Day weekend. We know folks are busy.
Mm-hmm.
So the show is still being worked out for next Sunday.
We'll figure something out.
Stay tuned. Keep visiting the channel and the Facebook group for updates.
Absolutely. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, Michelle and I have been working on this for, most of the part of today, and we've been discussing it over the last week or so about what we wanted to do. And, we came up with some stuff. We're going to talk about some of the creepiest Michigan paranormal and UFO cases. And those are kind of related to Michigan. Then we're going to go outside of Michigan and talk about some things that
a little New Orleans and San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah. So
sounds like even into West Virginia too.
So well, let's get started with Michelle. One of the first cases we got to bring up here is one that was very famous in 1994. We even had a guest who experienced it, but on the east side of the state.
Mr. Jack Bashong.
Yep. Well, he was on the west side of the state, and he was the main star. I'm talking about our good buddy, Guy Merritt.
Oh, we're talking about Guy's story.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So, but in March of 1994, over 300 people, I'm going to say a lot more than that, across 42 counties in Michigan reported seeing strange multicolored lights in the night sky. The reports were so numerous that police dispatchers and National Weather Service radar picked up the unusual anomalies. So, witnesses described the lights that hovered, darted at impossible speeds, and even moved together in formations. This event remains one of the most credible mass UFO sightings in U.S. history, right here in good old Michigan. And to this day, it remains unexplained. Now, we've done a couple of shows with this about this topic, and we had on the one and only Jack Bouchon, who was the National Weather Service radar operator up in Mesquite, Michigan. And let's just say people were not very happy with him putting that out there. But Michelle, what else about this did we realize happened on a little platform called Netflix?
Oh, the Unsolved Mysteries.
Yes.
Boy, once it starts hitting the actual, TV shows that I remember watching over and over again. I don't even remember when those shows came out.
Zero sugar, people. Zero sugar. It's better than regular. I'm sorry. I just wanted to put in a little shout out to Pepsi, zero sugar.
Hey, we're going to end up picking them up as a sponsor.
Yeah,
Thanks,
there you
Wayne.
go, right?
Thank you, Wayne.
Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters, sponsored by
Pepsi.
PepsiCo.
Boy, that would be nice.
Yeah. A lifetime supply of Pepsi.
So, but the whole case on the west side, and from my knowledge, like the campers that saw the water being drawn up into the craft over 200 feet, like their names have never been released. I don't know if they even talk about it.
Well, what was your first reaction when you saw the Netflix Unsolved Mysteries episode that talked about this UFO flap here?
We're not rated G tonight, are we?
We don't have to be.
I was like, holy shit, it's Michigan. So now that we're not rated G, no, but just the fact that like the lights that he was able to get on the sonar,
the radar
showing up in that triangular pattern.
Yeah, there was.
So there was, there was
like a
that.
fleet.
The fact that police officers saw it,
they were chasing them. That's what gets me.
Yeah. And then over on the east side of the state, 1994, which obviously seemed to be a pretty hot year for him. We had the cases of the black triangles that were going on up around the Flint area.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it was all along the East Coast. So again, we've talked about this one before, and this is why I like this being our first topic that we're talking about, because you guys can go and search all of our previous videos and podcasts and look for, black triangles, the Devil's Triangle, things like that. And you'll pull up our shows where we had guests talking about this, and especially like Jack Bouchon and stuff, where he described how how the radar operated, how it was picking up these craft moving over the Lake Michigan, down the coast of Michigan, and then the police. And that's the thing that got me, was that in that episode they interviewed the former sheriff of that area, and they have the tapes of them talking to Jack Bouchon in the radar station, and he's directing them where these things are going, and they're seeing them, and they're saying, yeah, we're seeing these weird lights and everything. And then there was the campers, like you talked about earlier, the campers that were doing winter camping. Yeah, only in Michigan. This is also the place where in the winter you see people wearing shorts, right? With winter
guilty
coats and shorts,
hoodie sweatshirt,
and we'll go camping, right? We'll go camping in the winter, But there was a couple campers on the beach of Lake Michigan, and I want to say it was over by Holland.
It was over somewhere in that region, but just think about it. The one area of a lake
where
that was not frozen over.
Yes.
So, and the fact that some of these crafts or the activity was even seen in the Chicago area.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah,
I mean,
one
it
of the
wasn't
things,
just isolated to the west side of Michigan.
yeah, and that was one of the things that Jack said in the 94 UFO flap was that he tracked these things on the radar when they would come into the range of the radar. They were coming from all over and meeting up. That's the thing. Like, that's really bizarre. Like these craft, whatever they were, met up and then went stationary over the the unfrozen area, the non-frozen area of the lake. And then the camper saw them pull the craft, pulling water up into the craft. And again, as it says here, this is one of the most credible mass UFO sightings in U.S. history. We don't have the radar tapes anymore, but we have 300 witnesses. We have the sheriff who's still alive, who's done an interview and things.
The 911 recordings.
Oh yeah, all of that. So yep. So one of the best stories. So Michelle, you want to talk about this next one?
Oh,
this was new to me until we started the podcast.
Are we talking about Dogman?
Well, that's the second one.
Yeah, we're talking about the Dogman of Michigan.
Yeah.
Wexford County, Michigan, the Odawa tribe. So up northern Michigan, first reported in 1887. So it was the Michigan Dogman is a 7'2" or about a 7 foot tall, blue-eyed bipedal creature that resembles a wolf or a dog. Witnesses describe it as standing upright on two legs with the body of a man and the head of a dog. It sounds a little like Egyptian mythology to me, a little Anubis going on.
Yeah.
Sightings peak roughly about every 10 years, according to the local legends, and is especially associated with northern Michigan. Like I said, it's part of the Odawa tribe as far as their lore, which we like.
Yeah.
That particular area up around Lake Petoskey is what I'm thinking of, that part of northern Michigan. But Dogman didn't even gain fame until 1987 when a local DJ had released a song called The Legend, and it was based off of real encounters.
Yeah, because people kept on calling into the radio station and talking about seeing these things or this thing. There's got to be multiples, right? I mean,
I wonder if they confused it with Bigfoot or other cryptids at the time, but it finally got its own acclaim to be the Michigan Dogman.
Yeah.
And I know that one of these times we haven't been up north in a hot minute, and especially summertime, the cost to stay up north is insanely expensive.
Yeah.
But we're definitely going to have to get up there and maybe do a little camping ourselves up around that way and see.
Now, do you think that the Dogman was misidentified and it was actually Bigfoot or a Bigfoot?
I think the shape of the head. If they're saying that, the shape of like a dog or a wolf in some sense, and it,
it's kind of different than
that's
an ape.
A whole different description than what has been spoken of about Bigfoot. So
yeah. Well, this started in 1887. So 2027 should be another 10-year cycle. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in a couple of years, we'll see if we have a huge number of sightings of Dogman.
Time for our northern tour.
Yeah.
Up through Traverse City and Petoskey and Charlevoix and stuff.
Yeah, and that's one thing we might do, everybody coming up in the future here is we're going to go around, maybe do some live streaming from Michigan places and see if we can't hit a couple this summer alone and get to some places and live stream from there for a little bit and do a little on the ground investigations.
I know we're looking to do at least one very short live stream from one of my favorite places on the planet, but that will be coming up next month in June.
Where is that favorite place?
That is South Lake Tahoe.
South Lake Tahoe,
California, Nevada border.
Yeah, and we're gonna look up. That's the land of giants, right?
Yes, it is the red-haired giants.
Yes. So we'll talk about that.
However, the folks in South Lake Tahoe are very fond of Bigfoot as well. So,
yep. All right, let's go on to the next Michigan story. So we covered the 94 Michigan UFO sighting. We covered Dogman. And now we've got the Paulding Light. I don't know if many people have heard of this one, but it was it's very deep in the woods near a place called Waters Meet, Michigan. It's north of the Michigan-Wisconsin border. It's a mysterious light that appears almost every night in a valley near an old railroad grade. Locals say the light is the spirit of a railroad brakeman who was killed while trying to stop an oncoming train. Okay, so first of all, my skeptic meter just went off, because how is he going to try to stop an oncoming train as one person jumping in front of a train? It's a little questionable. The Paulding Light was even investigated on the Sci-Fi Channel's Fact or Faked Paranormal Files, and although skeptics have claimed it's distant car light or headlights, many visitors say they see the light move, change colors, and split apart, doing things headlights shouldn't do. Michelle, have you ever heard of the Paulding Light?
No, I've heard so many different railroad like hauntings. The one that I knew of was one in Pennsylvania, and I just looked it up too. It was the Switchback Railroad Trail. That one I knew of, as far as like the light appearing in different ghost stories around that. But so many other states. I mean, if there's railroad tracks, it seems that there's some sort of ghostly tale.
Well, speaking of railroad tracks and ghostly tales, it's when I was in high school, we actually used to be able to walk off campus for lunch, and there was a pizza place down by some train tracks and where I grew up, and we used to go down there every couple of days of the week, and we would go down to these train tracks, and there was always a homeless lady, right? And she would ask for our pop cans after we drank our Coke or whatever and ate our pizza, and we'd give them to her for the deposit. Here in Michigan, we have a deposit on our aluminum cans, so we would give them to her. And one day when we went down there, she was standing on one side of the tracks and we were on the other side where the little pizza place was that we would get our slices of pizza. And she yells over at us and she's like, "Hey kids." And she waves. We kind of waved back. We held up our cans, and she looked, and the train thing came down, ding, 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 ding. And a train was, going to cross the main road there. And man, she jumped right in front of it and deleted herself. That was not a very good experience as a kid on his lunch break. So yeah, that was kind of traumatizing, and probably one of the first times I've ever seen anybody.
I don't think you've ever told me that story.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That's one that goes back in the locker sometimes, but considering what we're talking about,
considering what we're going to talk about in the next sequence.
Well, it was, it was dark, man. It was a dark time. It was
yeah, I can't imagine that that's something that you want to sit down and have a powwow about.
Yeah.
How horrible.
Yeah. I think I was 16. I wasn't quite driving yet, because once I started driving, we were jumping in my car and leaving the campus and going to the local fast food joint.
See, and I know of like my parents. My parents came from very big families, and where they were from in Kentucky, a lot of those railroads didn't have the crossings with the arms that came down. Mm-hmm. And I know that my parents lost siblings to to trains.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's very few areas now around Michigan. You might maybe up around, northern Michigan or something, they'll still have lights, but I mean, there's still some that don't have crossings. I know that I unfortunately, how many years ago now, Wayne? 9 years ago
Mm-hmm.
that I lost, 9 or 10 years ago now that I lost a student to a train.
Yep.
Locally close to the school. So
yeah,
it unfortunately does happen. And
it does, they're accidental. Sometimes they are, man, sometimes they're just people that just can't live with certain regrets or their lives or what's going on, and they feel that that's the only path that they have, which they should explore other avenues. But let's see, what's this going on here in chat? The Real Truth has joined us. What's going on? My two favorite customers.
That is our friend Tom.
Oh, hey,
Man,
Chef Tom, what's going on?
We have stopped up at Iron Mike's and have not been able to catch you.
Yes, sir. We were there just the other night, and it was a disaster to say the least.
Yeah, we'll have to tell you about that another time. So we're not going to get into that story.
Yeah, but Iron Mike's great place to eat, Chef Tom. Thank you, sir.
And still New Boston Coney and Grill.
And we got our New Boston Coney and Grill.
Yeah, she's been getting into that Dubai chocolate lately.
Yes.
Stuff is heavenly or sinful. Both. It's on both ends of the spectrum.
How about, Michelle, why don't we talk about this next thing here?
Okay.
Why don't we talk about
this is one that I am still
hold on, listen
about. Come on.
Hold on.
Oh geez, here we go.
Why don't you do the one after that? And these can be our finale stories here.
Oh,
yes, dude. Do it.
Are we going to talk about the South Lyon Hotel now?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, South Lyon, Michigan.
South Lyon.
Where are our South Lyon people?
Spelled with a Y. Spelled with a Y. It's not Lyon.
It
South Lyon.
Oh my God! Even though it's on this place is on Lafayette in South Lyon, and it has a little bit of a French name itself.
Yes, it does.
But this place was built in 1867, and I honestly did not realize it was still open. This place has survived 3 fires.
Yeah. But people haven't.
But the hotel itself, and that's the story behind it, that guests and former employees that perished in the fires still haunt this place.
Dude.
So the South Lyon Hotel, it is said to be haunted. Again, witnesses have reported objects moving on their own, phantom footsteps, whispering voices, and even sightings of a woman in white wandering the halls. There's one that we hear a lot of. But after doing a little bit more digging, it was reportedly built on an old cemetery. So the building itself. But
yeah. Dude, what's up with all of this stuff, man?
When you look into the description of the place, this one gets me.
Yeah.
So it is a relaxed two-floor American eatery in an iconic 1860s hotel. It morphs into a live music venue at night, located at 201 North Lafayette Street, South Lyon, Michigan. So I guess if like you and your significant other go for a party of 2, you might as well upgrade it to a party of 3. I'm sorry.
Yes, you need to. You want to make sure you don't upset the local spirit people and put a place at your table for them. Yes. Yeah. I mean,
we haven't been there yet, but I've got friends that live out in South Lyon.
Yeah,
so I'm like,
we're going.
I'll go. See, there used to be a place open not far from here that I absolutely love going to, Waltz Inn. So anyone from like the Huron Township, Waltz area, Carlton, down in this downriver area, we knew about Waltz Inn. It was, part of the, little railway there. It was, I don't want to call it like a railroad house or whatever, but something like that along the way. And they had a wonderful restaurant in there. Very, very dark, even though there were windows. It was, very dark and intimate. Had many birthday parties or dinners there, but allegedly it was haunted.
It was an
but
old
people lived in
building.
the apartments upstairs.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they had extra neighbors too.
All
Oh,
right. All right, Michelle. I think I know you want to talk about this place. So we covered the South Lyon Hotel. Let's talk asylums. And we've talked about this.
we've talked about Eloise. Oh, have
Very
we talked
famous,
about Eloise?
very famous place. You know, it's crazy how haunted and how charged Michigan is, and you don't realize it. You know, you grow up as a kid, and if you grow up with those parents or that parent that just wants nothing to do with any of this crap, right? They're like, it's all bullshit. Get out of here. But you find out how much stuff is just in your area that's going on. And it is insane that we have this place. And I had an experience. I know Michelle's had an experience with Eloise.
I've got a story
So-
to tell that I had not even told Wayne until this morning.
All right. So go ahead, Michelle. You take it and you tell your story first. I've told my story about Eloise a couple times.
Well, you know,
and-
not everybody who is listening knows what Eloise is. Eloise was
they made a movie there.
an institution for the mentally insane, although from rumors, there were even, you know, women that would be housed there that were going through like menopause at the time, and their husbands would literally drop them off saying that they were crazy.
Hold on a minute, Michelle. Read that. That's from
My
Shameless.
sister visited
Hold on.
Eloise.
Who's it from?
This is from
Shamelessly
Shamelessly
Voracious.
Voracious. So my sister visited Eloise, said a teen boy spirit and a group of kid spirits were there, and a mean man they were terrified of. I'm not surprised.
I've got the mean man. I'll tell you about that in a minute.
So now my
That's true.
experience with Eloise is one, it had already, I believe, had closed down by the time that I started venturing around where the tunnels were. And the tunnels were located, oh geez, they had openings.
Did you finish the background?
Oh no, I didn't.
Sorry, I interrupted you because I interrupted you because I saw that chat come through and I thought that was important.
No, but like I said, it was once mental hospital in the Wayne Westland area, located up on Michigan Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And
the second part of the first bullet point is ridiculous, dude.
So and I mean
Thousands.
they have roughly right now still they said that they had moved all of the graves, but there were 7,000 roughly marked but unnamed graves on site.
Because thousands died there, and visitors reported the ghostly screams and shadow figures, cold spots, phantom footsteps. I mean, dude, yeah, and it's crumbling.
You know, well, they've done a lot to restore it, probably a little too much, but we'll get into that in a second. And they have like a separate annex that has been added onto, or maybe it was completely restored too. I mean, as a kid, it was still far enough that I wasn't walking down there, but in high school, we would do ventures into the tunnels, and I'll get to that in a second.
What about that last part on the history there about Eloise? Some even claim to have been, what is that, scratched
or pushed by unseen forces.
Man, yeah.
So, but in the hospital itself, and Wayne will bring up some photos here in a little bit, and the main part of the building, they call it the K Beard building. It wasn't always named that, but that was the main part of the hospital. There were other buildings on the grounds too that over time they demolished. One was a house where a building where they would house tuberculosis patients, right in that house. Now, like I said, they have the annex, which is a homeless shelter. But so many things that they've been doing, like now they do haunting investigations, they do haunted houses, they do paranormal tours, they do concerts. I think Wayne had looked up earlier that Alice Cooper played there in 2021. I don't remember that, but I know that they have like a hip hop concert coming up there. They've had country musicians. They filmed a movie there, which I still have yet to see.
Yeah.
There was somebody in our Facebook group wanting us to share. Oh yeah, that's the case. That's the
this was a while ago.
That is the building, and they've done a lot of upgrades to it. So that's busted out windows. All the windows have been repaired. So that
old air conditioning units that were in the windows at the time.
The way that building is right there, that would have been back in probably the very early 90s.
Yeah.
But they're talking about turning that into a hotel.
Yeah.
With restaurants on site.
Come on.
But back to what I was saying. So there was somebody in the Facebook group who had wanted us to share a paranormal investigation group for children to take kids on haunting, explorations inside of Eloise. And I've got like, did I just read what I thought I read? I'm like, I'm thinking to myself that somebody's got to be out of their damn mind to take kids into this.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a big attraction now. And I don't know if it's like the generation thing, like the Gen Xers of the area, at least that I grew up with, were like, no, we're not going in there because we're going to end up taking something home.
Well, I mean, think about it.
Oh.
We heard all the crazy stories about Eloise, right? Growing up, some of us, like this dummy right here.
Well, and this dummy right here, because before they sealed off the tunnels, we used to go down along the Rouge River, and there were the big tunnel system
points,
with the grates, and the grates were not very secure, and they were open at the time. That we would go down in small groups down there with flashlights in until we got into one section that looked, and it was the last time that I ever went down into the tunnels. I mean, besides like hearing like the scampering of animals, we had gotten into a section of the tunnel that literally branched off into other tunnels, as like a waterway, and whatever sound we had heard, it wasn't like an animal or something, but it was like a groaning. That was the quickest we had ever turned around and got out of there and did not go any further into the system, because our goal was to make it to Eloise through the tunnels. That didn't happen that day. And then eventually they ended up sealing them off because there were so many teenagers like my friends and I at the time going into the tunnels.
Speaking of kids, right? Speaking of kids, look at what Shamelessly put into chat. So they were talking about the teen boy spirit, and a group of spirit kids were there, and a mean man that were terrified. They were terrified of, right? And it says here, the teen boy seemed to be protecting the children's spirits from the man and somehow alerted the visitors to leave the area. My sister has passed, so I can't get more details. Sorry to hear about the passing, but that I 100% believe that because of what I had seen with a bunch of friends of mine. Yeah. So you want to do a quick photo tour before you?
Yeah, show a couple pictures, because not everyone has heard about Eloise. I mean, there were other mental institutions in the state of Michigan. Northville was a huge one.
Yep.
Northville has its own haunting stories. I'm pretty sure they demolished that one. I haven't been out that way in a while.
Well, and just so anybody who's listening to this in the future on an audio podcast, get over to YouTube and check out the video so you can see these pictures. By the way, these pictures are from MLive that went in there and took pictures, and we're talking about it years ago. So
probably right before the restoration.
There's probably, I would say, a chair that was probably used for dentistry. I mean, the place had its own fire department. It had a police department. it had its own cemetery, like you were saying.
I know that there was a hospital behind it.
Yeah. And shamelessly talked about the morgue. Speaking of which, there you go. If you snuck into the place or got a special tour from the owners of the property, this is how things were left. Yeah. Kind of creepy. There's an interesting room. I remember seeing rooms like that when we snuck in there. And some type of procedures, maybe doing what electroshock therapy. Yeah.
I know that I have
I'm sure that's black mold.
A student's, I don't know if it's the whole family. I know it's at least his mom that works there, and now it's like full costume and everything. I don't know. I just can't. To me, that is sacred ground.
Too many unclaimed graves and bodies are still there in that ground. They need
that,
to.
And there's just stories that we know. And Wayne, I don't know. Do you want to tell the story again about you and the band guys before I share with you what I did this morning?
Yeah. So and there's a picture of I think that is where they would put the person that had passed away and then perform autopsies and stuff, or maybe it's some type of bath.
God only
something.
knows. Well, I don't know if that's like a temperature gauge or some sort of pressure gauge, but
probably temperature, I'm thinking, because that's a bath of some type, right? Maybe they'd lower people in there.
I don't know. That looks,
but all right, so
blood on the end.
Yeah. All right, so my story is me and a bunch of my buddies that were in a band and girlfriends and things, we decided to get into this place. And like Michelle was saying, you could access it through many different ways. We accessed it through a hole in the fence that we knew about. And so go in there, and we're dodging security guards, mind you. There were security guards, but we run across the field into an access like a machine room type place, almost like a shed, but a brick shed, very large. We go in there, and that takes you down into the tunnel system where you could work on the heating and all that. When we're down there, and our dumbasses didn't think to bring flashlights or anything. We were just kind of going, following pipes. And then all of a sudden somebody said, well, we got lighters. So we're lighting lighters, right? This is the stupid thing that 24-year-olds do, in a band, acting like idiots. Will you put the doll away, please? Don't be bringing that doll up here. What's wrong with you? Anyways, creepy dolls. But we're down in the tunnel, and we're taking turns lighting the lighter and holding our arm out front. And in front, it looks like it's so black. It looks like there's a mist in the tunnels, and there could have been. I mean, sure, why not? But when we were moving forward in the mist, we could make out a shadowy figure of some type of it looked like a large man, and probably 6 foot something. And this kind of goes to what Shamelessly was just saying about some type of a mean man that the spirit kids that they dealt with that were afraid. Okay. Well, the mean man saw us. We thought it was a security guard because it literally turned. We could tell that it turned. And then it started running at us or moving toward us. I have no idea. All I know is that by the time I looked over at my one buddy, Chris, who was the singer, and I'm like, dude, what's going on? And I look, and he's just sitting there like, what is going on? And he does like this. So I turn and do like this. and it was right on top of us. And I'm like, we're going to get just bowled right over. And some of the people behind us are like yelling, what is it? What is it? And then poof, it was like a mist cloud hit us. And it was like being sprayed with like one of those water bottles, right? It was definitely in the form of a big like man coming at us. And when it made contact, it was just like getting sprayed with one of those water bottles. And then it was gone. And then so were we, because we turned around and we took off on that one. We did not go any further than that. And on that trip anyways, because we found a different way in the next time where we went into like the swimming pool area and stuff. And it was all marked up with satanic writings and markings. And
I was going to say,
yeah,
for being a local from that area,
yeah,
you have no idea
yeah,
how many local stories of people getting into Eloise.
Oh yeah, and there
constantly.
Yeah, and there was no shortage of how haunted that place was. Now I'm saying was, and I'm putting an asterisk on top of was, because even though they are doing things, I want to show you guys what they're doing. Okay. Here's a shameless plug for them, but I got to show you guys this. It's going to take me just 1 second. Here we go. This is what they're doing, and this is what Michelle was talking about, but this is what they're doing at Eloise now. A haunting visual journey. They have people come in and, actors and things like that. Hey, Bob Gray, welcome to the show. Who else is that? Paramarv. Hey, welcome. We're talking Michigan hot zones of haunted stuff. But if we look at this, you can see these are people dressed up, or there's mannequins and things like that.
House.
It's a haunted house. Yeah.
And I get it. I worked at a haunted house for probably a good 8-9 years when the YMCA, the local YMCA was still open in Westland. Worked there for years.
They have a newsletter.
Yeah, did all the music and everything. I can't get over, them doing like the concerts and stuff and talking about a hotel, and it's like,
it's now like an amusement park almost.
Taking a bath in holy water, seriously.
Yeah,
that you don't bring anything home. But the story that I shared with Wayne this morning, and it was just more tidbits. It's of an account of a patient that I personally knew. She's deceased, but the story of it would have been, oh God, early to mid 70s, maybe late 70s. It was when the hospital was still open, because these didn't start closing down until around maybe the early to mid 1980s.
Right.
Well,
right. Even though most of them were being shut down, because it was during Kennedy, right, that started deinstitutionalizing.
Check and see for me when exactly Eloise stopped taking patients, because for this lady at the time, and we're going to call her Lily.
Okay.
So Lily had somehow, either maybe it was, menopause and hormonal changes at the time. Maybe it was that she had a mental illness, but it had been recorded by the local police that she had chased her husband down a major road near their house with a machete. Well, instead of going to jail at the time, she was taken to Eloise. Now, prior to that, in her house, she had a small collection of dolls, because her grandkids would, often visit and talk about the stories of her dolls. But when she came out of Eloise, it seemed that she wasn't keeping the house as lit as she once did. She would keep her main source of entertainment was QVC and a police scanner.
Back in the day, QVC.
Yep. So she kept one light on in the living room, but that wasn't the worst part of it. She had dolls everywhere, in their boxes, some out of their boxes, much bigger than this little girl here, or this little porcelain doll.
Dude, that thing is creepy.
She called my dolls. These are over 40 years old. This was part of my Christmas gift when we had a house fire when I was in first grade. So these little girls stay with me. But the doll collection that this woman had, and she would call them her friends. Now, there was a time in the later 90s when she was still alive. Her and I talked very frequently on the phone. She would talk about her friends talking to her. Now, I don't know if this woman was having conversations with her friends prior to the machete incident, but I remember seeing these dolls. And when this woman finally left this earth, it was not a peaceful death. In fact, I remember the phone call in the middle of the night, and I was asked to come over to the house so that the family could deal with things. And her body was so contorted, but facing where her dolls were. Now, her grandchildren who had stayed in the house, and I remember that they lived in the attic at one time, they would hear her talking to someone, and they assumed that she was talking to the dog. But the conversations were quite extensive, to where after her death, it was more of like a consensus that she was having conversations with these dolls, and that the dolls were her friends. Now, that time that she spent in Eloise, the question is, did she bring something back with her into that house? Is that what continued to make her go stir crazy, to keep the house very dimly lit, to exclude herself from the outside world? Because her husband ended up passing before she did. No, she did not finally get, the job done with the machete, but she had lived on past him for a short time. And like I said, that will be a sight that is like burned in my memory of just what she looked like when she passed, what she was facing, and the sound, and just the talk of the conversations that she had in a room filled with porcelain dolls.
Okay. You just made me think of something with that story. The gentleman we had on not too long ago, real life near-death experiences. Simon Bone.
Yeah.
Remember, he talked about when you're getting ready to go, people will start talking about seeing relatives. I even think you were talking about your dad before he...
Oh, my dad talked about seeing two
children. Seeing two children. And
I don't know if that was necessarily the case with her, because even when she was what we would consider the word spry, she was having conversations with her friends.
Yeah.
That's what she called her dolls, her friends. And that was based off of phone conversations that I had with Lily. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I told Wayne about that this morning, because it's honestly, it had creeped me out so badly at the time.
You compartmentalize that.
I do.
Put that away,
because there's a lot of things. Well, and there are things that you just compartmentalize, and that one was definitely one. And then, of course, I remind Wayne that I have a couple dolls in the house, and he's like instantly gets creeped out. But I was the victim of a house fire when I was about 6 years old, and everything was completely destroyed on the main 2 levels of the house. So my mother and I lived in the basement for many months while they restored the upstairs of the house. And of course, the fire happened right before Christmas.
Yep.
So those 2 dolls were one of the Christmas gifts that actually made it through.
So they're positive energy.
The fire. So they're positive energy for me, and those dolls stay with me. But are you talking any more UFOs, or are we going?
Oh yeah.
Okay, you talk your UFOs, and then what I want to talk about.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna save yours for last, right? But I'm gonna do the second to last. It's my favorite UFO, Michigan UFO encounter, I guess you could say. But first,
besides our own, it was the first incident.
Yeah, but first, let's address this right here. Bigfoot Michigan Rob is in the house. Shout out to Bigfoot Michigan Rob. He's a local, kind of close to us, and does a great show. Make sure you guys go and check out his channel, talking cryptids and all things in Michigan and beyond as well. He says Eloise is fascinating. I remember the tunnels way before they remodel currently. Absolutely, man. And my friend has some strange photos, he says.
You know what's funny, though? I bet you probably at one point in time, BMR and I ran into each other as kids, because that was like the main thing that a bunch of us from that area would get into.
Yeah. All right. Should I go on now to my favorite UFO thing in Michigan besides ours?
I was going to say,
and the 94 thing.
Ours started it for us, but this one was definitely of peak interest and where I would say our investigations led to.
Yeah. So full disclosure, right? Before 2018, when we had our black triangular encounter of driving under one at 275 and Ford Road, and you guys can check out all those shows in our very first episode 0. We tell the story. It's not the best, but yeah. Anyways, I knew nothing. I mean, I've lived in Michigan for the better part of my whole life, and I'm gonna be 50. I'm gonna be 55 this year. Oh my God. Anyways, never heard of this story until after we had seen our UFO thing, and we didn't start the podcast till about 3 years after we saw our UFO and had our UFO encounter, our triangle TR3B. Okay, I'll fight you for it. But whatever, it's not a TR3B. Anyways. But we're watching a show on UFOs, which we never did before. And just a quick blurb on this documentary we were watching talks about the 1966 Dexter Ann Arbor UFO encounter.
Of course, we get excited because it's close.
Yeah.
Ann Arbor's not far.
No. 30 miles, maybe, to the west, if that. And we're sitting here thinking, man, what do you mean UFO encounter in Michigan in 1966? Why are they talking about it now? What is going on? We literally know nothing. Well, knew nothing about any UFOs or anything like that in Michigan. Like, Michelle is a teacher with a master's degree, middle school ELA. And, I teach science in high school level.
My level of sci-fi was movies.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, pop culture crap, but nothing real. And then we find out about this. So I did some digging and I put some notes together, and I just want to recap for everybody and see the weird twist that this thing takes. And I'm just going to say this now. If you are waiting for somebody in the government to come to you and go on TV or whatever and say, "Hi, I'm Lou Elizondo and UFOs are real and I'm from the government and I'm here to help," right? It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Okay? It's not. If you're looking for people in positions of authority to tell you that, it's not going to happen. Okay? Here's why. So in March of 1966, multiple residents in Dexter and Hillsdale, Michigan, reported seeing strange lights and disc-shaped objects, like in 94, hovering over fields, moving erratically, and even landing. Okay? More than one report, instead of just the Fred Manor report, which was the one that got all the publicity, right? The Fred Manor farm and all this. There was multiple reports yet again about what these UFOs were doing. And in Dexter, a farmer and his family saw a glowing football-shaped object land in a swamp. Dun, 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 dun. This was the Frank Manor thing. Police arrived and confirmed seeing flashing red and white lights. One officer said he'd never seen anything like this in his life. It's China. Anyways, this is 1966, okay? 1966. No TR-3Bs, none of this garbage, okay? There wasn't even Star Wars dreamt up yet, okay? So around the same time in Hillsdale, which is close to Ann Arbor, it's a college area, 80 plus college students and their dorm mother at Hillsdale College saw a glowing object outside their dormitory for hours. It hovered, pulsated, and changed colors. And we had a woman on here not too long ago who was a witness to this at Eastern Michigan University. So not just Hillsdale, the private college, but at a state college, Eastern Michigan University, and it landed outside of her dorm. She saw it perfectly, and it hovered outside her window for a second before taking off. Okay. Now, this is where things go a little to the left. The sightings made national headlines and prompted astronomer Dr. J. Allen Hynek to investigate on behalf of the U.S. Air Force. So this was Project Blue Book. Okay. Now here comes the twist, everybody. At the press conference after he did an investigation for like a day, Hynek famously called the sighting swamp gas, saying the lights were likely caused by decaying vegetation igniting in the swamp. Here's the kicker. Hynek later admitted he never believed the swamp gas explanation and said he was pressured by government officials to say it to calm the media frenzy.
It's like I got approached by the Men in Black without saying I got approached by the Men in Black.
He was working for the Men in Blue, because they were Air Force, right? OSI, Office of Special Investigations. The case is now seen as a turning point in UFO history, and the phrase swamp gas became a punchline symbolizing, wait for it, government cover-ups.
Yeah, so now it's the joke, and then, and then Ray Szymanski does his series with Swamp Gas My Ass.
Yep. Well, hold on. Here you go. Friends with Monsters in our chat just summed it up perfectly. I once had swamp gas while chasing Venus. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Speaking of Ray, too, for those who follow him, he was over in, wasn't it Italy?
Yeah, he was.
He was over in Italy on doing a tour.
Absolutely. Over in Italy, speaking over there.
Yeah.
So
about his bus.
Bob Gray says, I was raised in the swamp of I think that's supposed to be southern Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what swamp gas
you know
like.
what swamp gas is like, okay? It's not a big, huge football-shaped type object blinking and taking off.
The only lights that I ever saw out of my college window was when they burned a certain type of field.
You mean when the police found it and they decided to
The-
get
the
rid of the
things
field
that-
and
yeah,
get everybody stoned?
The things that they would grow in between the corn stalks down in Adrian.
Yeah, there's
So-
somebody in chat from Adrian, by the way.
Yeah, nothing like, and that was back before, everything was, or before it was voted in recreational. I mean, a long time ago.
Yes, shout out to Adrian, Michigan, and Siena Heights College, right?
Some of my old stomping grounds.
Yes.
For a
So,
couple
anyways, the 1966 Dexter Ann Arbor UFO encounter that we had seen on a documentary really kind of lit a fire under my butt to really start digging into this. And we learned about Ray Szymanski and his books, and like Michelle said, Swamp Gas My Ass, which was like the third book in his series of books there, where he's an engineer, an electrical engineer that worked at Wright Patterson. Hello. For many, many years, retired from there and investigating all of this 1966. So, and I saw somebody, I think it was Bob, says we need evidence. I agree, but I don't think we're going to get the evidence that we're used to getting. I think right now, all we're going to have in the way of evidence is stories right now and personal experiences. I think that's all we're going to be able to get, because it seems like that these things, these encounters and stuff, change based on the people that see them. It's in an inexact science right now. So, but yeah. And then I see Paramarv says, if you haven't had Ray on, I hope you do sometime. I went to a talk he had in Hillsdale Library in 2022. We've had him on multiple times.
I'm sitting here, messaging back.
Yeah.
We've had Ray on a few times in all the previous shows with Ray.
Yep. Just search Raymond in the YouTube search window.
Had
You'll
the
find him.
chance to go see one of his sessions at a library in Taylor, Michigan, and then had a chance to go to dinner afterwards with Ray.
Yep.
So great stories.
Yes.
Boy, some stories that I wish we could share, but that's for maybe down the road.
That's down the road. Yep. Go back through. Yes, exactly. So he says, I'll go back through. Yeah. Love listening to Ray. Absolutely. We even get into some of the cover-ups and things, and we kind of think we figured out, well, Ray did, but I agree with him that one of the things that most people don't know is that southeastern Michigan, because of the tank plants and the Cold War and Vietnam and all that, was a high, what do I want to say, like a high manufacturing zone for military craft and tanks and things. And guess what surrounded most of southeast Michigan? Nike missile bases.
Mm-hmm.
Those were nukes. And we had nukes at Selfridge Air National Guard base over there on the east side in the Mount Clemens area. That's where I grew up. Man. Yeah, just insane. And Bigfoot Rob says that he thought that the 1994 Michigan UFO account had good evidence. It did. But unfortunately, those radar tapes were either, according to Jack Bouchon, I think they were just erased because they just recorded over old radar tapes. So the radar tapes were destroyed or whatever.
It's kind of like what we did to VHS tapes back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. And what does survive to this day are a couple things. So one thing that survives is the 911 tapes that people have recorded. Those are still out there from that time period when it actually happened. So that's out there. And for 1966, Ray had videoed and recorded the flight lead of two, what were they, F-86s that were dispatched from Selfridge Air National Guard base, and it was Colonel Carroll and his wingman in 1966 that went and intercepted, unsuccessfully, but intercepted one of the flying discs. And before he passed away, he recorded a video of him giving his testimony about what happened. And he wanted to come forward with it and tell everybody his story about how the craft moved and moved at 90-degree angles. It was a disc. And again, you'll see that if you go back through our old episodes with Ray Szymanski, you will see we do play that video for everybody, and we broke that on our channel. Yeah, so go check that stuff out. It's really really cool and interesting, and we're not alone. Michelle,
Well,
I think it's that time.
Well, not yet.
I know.
Not
no,
yet
it's
for the
time
reason.
for a tour, I think.
Well, there was a question in chat about,
Okay.
as far as in our opinion, what are the most haunted cemeteries at night in Michigan?
Ooh.
There are, I was going to say that there were two for me, but I'm thinking of three. Two of them are in my own hometown.
Mhm.
So because of just as far as, I don't want to say vibes,
What are they?
but like the viewing of orbs. One is actually near my old high school. There is a cemetery on Glenwood that's called, Glenwood Cemetery. There's another very small cemetery up near the movie theater, State Wayne in Wayne. But the other one for me was the one where I believe that the sisters of Siena Heights were buried. It's a bigger cemetery that is on Siena Heights Drive in Adrian, Michigan. That was one where we would go on, what do I want to say, haunted walks.
Okay.
Sometimes at midnight, 1 o'clock, because we had those key cards. We could swipe ourselves in
Sure.
wherever. And what are college students going to do, especially at a Catholic college at the time?
Yeah.
We're going to go out. We're going to go for walks.
Yep.
We're going to try to scare the crap out of each other.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
that's true.
I potentially say that
did
any
that.
cemetery in Michigan could be haunted.
Yeah, for me, I'm not really sure, because I haven't messed around in cemeteries a lot. There was one in my hometown of Mount Clemens that was old as hell. And I mean, some of the tombstones or headstones you couldn't read. They were so weathered. That place was creepy. We did our very first band when I was in high school. We did a photo shoot in there, and we didn't stay very long. And we would lay by the tombstones and stuff and have our pictures taken. Yeah, Michigan is just creepy, BMR. Absolutely. But I would say that the grounds at Eloise, man, that place is charged up. It is 100% haunted.
That is like a living and breathing haunted cemetery.
Yeah, it
They'll
really is.
They would never admit that they built.
And by the way, you asked me to check out when did they stop taking patients.
Mhm.
So it looks like it closed down in 3 phases. So the psychiatric division started closing in 1977. As the last patients were transferred out in 1982 when the state of Michigan took over, and then the general hospital closed in 1986.
So that would have
yeah.
made sense that the psychiatric, because the stories that were told to
Yep.
me, and this is even by my friend Lily,
Mhm.
that it would have been early to mid 70s.
Yep.
So that she was institutionalized.
Hey, and by the way, to the 31 people watching us tonight, thank you very much. That's awesome. We're happy you could join us on this Saturday evening, since we're not doing a show tomorrow night due to graduation things and having to do a lot of driving. But thank you for joining us, everybody. Really appreciate it. Michelle, should I do the warning before we get into the last thing we're going to talk about tonight? Because I still can't believe it.
I think that you need to do your disclaimer.
No, I think we need to bless people. I think we need to bless this at this point.
Oh, dude, this is like
ready.
You
sent it to me.
Prayer to all the saints.
Okay. All right. So I think she's following me here. Let's go. All right, everybody. Just to be on the safe side. Are you ready? This is so freaky.
In the name of Jesus Christ, Lord, protect us from any evil, inhuman, or demonic entities that may surround this or infuse in this doll. In the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. I'm going to open up the case. You're going to quickly, I mean quick. Grab it and put it in. And just close it up fast.
Because I have that doll.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Position. It's all right. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
So, all right. So this is where this rabbit hole went. When I first saw this video on TikTok or whatever, I instantly was calling bullshit. I'm like, there is no way that they took that doll out of the Warren Estates, in Monroe, Connecticut, and took that doll on a tour into New Orleans and then San Antonio. And then I start doing digging. And this is where my stomach has been just upset for the last few hours as I continue to dig into it.
She has been physically
ill looking up the information. So the doll had also made its way into West Virginia. That one doesn't necessarily get mentioned too much. But for May 13th and 14th, they took the Annabelle doll into, what was it? It was the Ghost City Tours in New Orleans.
The Ghost City Tours?
Ghost City Tours.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Now, it has been said that even Lorraine Warren would take artifacts and allegedly took Annabelle out to make it more, educate about the occult. And the warnings of the occult is why, certain artifacts would be taken out. But along with the Annabelle doll on this most recent event today, that doll was at the Victoria's Black Swan Inn in San Antonio, Texas. And it has led with kind of mixed reviews. It's a mixed bag, whether or not how people felt with this cursed doll being in the area. And had a very small museum set up with the original Annabelle doll, not the one from the movie, because of course everybody asks, well, why didn't you have one that looked like the original? Well, it's a copyright thing. You put Raggedy Ann in front of a camera, it does not look as intimidating as the porcelain one that they put together, because that same Raggedy Ann doll, I am able to scare the mess out of my students every October on Halloween because I have that doll. Now mine doesn't have a bracelet on like the original Annabelle doll, but for those who do not know the history of the Raggedy Ann doll, Wayne, I want you to click on that link for the New Haven Register.
Yeah.
Because you've got to see the pictures here of Lorraine Warren holding the original Annabelle or Raggedy Ann.
No, hold on.
And there are so many from my generation that probably still have this doll. Mine.
All right, so shout out to them, right?
I keep in my classroom.
Shout out to the New Haven Register. Let's see. Now, unfortunately, it's going to have ads popping up in it and stuff. So there you go. The real Annabelle story shared by Lorraine Warren at Milford's. What is that? Laurelton Hall. Yeah.
So, and she did. And Lorraine Warren, when she was alive, she would actually, take the doll out to again educate about the occult. It just, again, to me, it's like it being, put on a show at these different events, and the charging of money. It like brings up that Eloise Asylum feel for me all over again. It's like, educate on the occult, but don't charge money for it. I don't know. This one definitely got me because I know it's at a Psychic and Spirit Fest 2025, and today it looks like was the main event before they headed back to Monroe, Connecticut.
Well, can you do me a favor?
Oh, I'm going to go through the story because
okay. I'm not super familiar with it, other than I know there's that movie.
When The Conjuring came out and the doll, the Annabelle doll was introduced, and I had found out that originally it was a Raggedy Ann doll, I was automatically interested in the story because I too had the same looking doll of the time. So let's see. Going down.
By the way, everybody, we have a target of 5 super chats. If you want to see us do a live stream from a different location, maybe a haunted location for a little bit, if you hit that target, we'll do it.
Okay. So give
shameless super chats plug, right?
As we're nearing the end of our show. I don't know. I'm like,
and honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I hate the paranormal stuff. I hate this creepy stuff.
I'm the one who is intrigued by it, especially like haunted objects, like not just, the Raggedy Ann doll, but what is it? That Robert the Doll. I remember watching like it wasn't a series, it was some sort of special about that Robert the Doll. It's the one that looks like it has like an extremely sewn face, has a little dog with it, is in a glass case, and it was owned by a little boy, Gene Otto, from what I can remember. And I remember what was it, like, in order to even take a picture of the doll, like you had to ask the doll for permission,
or you'd get cursed,
or you would instantly get cursed. I'm like, that sort of stuff. However, I will never mess with the clown doll from the movie Poltergeist. Forget that thing drags people under beds. But the true story of the Annabelle doll, as recounted by Ed and Lorraine Warren, centers around a Raggedy Ann doll gifted to a 28-year-old nurse named Donna in 1971. Donna and her roommate Angie began experiencing strange phenomena, including the doll moving on its own and leaving notes. They eventually sought help from a medium who claimed the doll was possessed by the spirit of a little girl named Annabelle Higgins. However, the Warrens concluded the doll was not possessed by the spirit, but actually was being manipulated by a demonic entity. That is when they took possession of the doll, believing it was a step towards possessing a human. So it was going to jump from the doll into a human. Ugh.
I mean, these are the kind of stories that go all the way back through antiquity, though, right? I mean, look at Nathaniel Gillis coming on here and talking about the golems and the carving of sigils and putting them in people's bodies,
There are so many things out there. I know, what is it? There is a vase that, like, its owner, like, it takes the owner's life. I can't remember the name of that one.
I don't know, but
so many objects. I need to sometimes stay away from the internet is what I need to stay away from.
Yeah.
I have friends with monsters. Everything is demons.
Everything is demons.
I'm telling you, it sure felt like it today as I was continuing to read more and more, because again, I was seeing these videos on TikTok and stuff. They were showing up in my Facebook feeds. They just looked campy. I'm like, are they really sitting there with gloves on and a squeezy bottle of holy water? Or what was it, at one of the festivals, I think it was the one in San Antonio at the museum, that what was it, there was a lady who had shown up with her haunted doll so that her haunted doll could have a conversation
God.
with Annabelle, and then she had like her little device there to see if they were actually like any sort of charge or energy was coming out of the two of them at the same time. But that it was a quiet day for Annabelle, because Annabelle had been like blessed and prayed over. I'm like, I'm done. I just can't. I got to stay off the internet
Well,
tonight.
and you have certain like emotional, physical reactions to
I
this
do.
stuff.
This one, I'm telling you, it's like my little dolls here. If she were to twist her head and look at me, she's not staying in this house. If I'm holding my Raggedy Ann in front of my kids and that thing smacks my hand while I'm holding it, I'm not keeping that doll anymore in my classroom. So, and I mean, when I say that I was a previous doll collector, I used to scare the mess out of one of my cousin Kevin, man. I used to have porcelain dolls like hanging on my wall in my bedroom. They didn't bother me. But I also wasn't watching movies at the time with,
Right.
that dolls that moved and everything.
Great. Nordland 2 says the Dybbuk box is being sold on eBay. Oh my God.
Oh no.
Oh, I just the paranormal.
Wasn't that the box that something with possessions?
Yeah.
Like it would possess whoever owned it.
Yeah. Something like that. Or there's something kind of like a genie lamp, right? And there's a Dybbuk inside of it, and it would possess if you opened it.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
they'll sell anything on eBay, won't they?
Sure. Or at least say it is. And I got to tell you, it's almost like the UFO stuff, but when it comes to the paranormal, ghost and things like that, and these attachments, I so badly just want to go, this is all just garbage. This is all just, oh, I'm going to take my doll to go talk to another haunted doll and all that. Oh my God. I just want to shake my head and go, you guys are all crazy, but I can't, because I've seen it and been in there, a part of it. It's absolutely, it just I guess I'm one of those people that I don't want it to be true.
Okay, so a Dybbuk box, it's kind of like a little wine cabinet, but in Jewish mythology, it is reported to have a Dybbuk inside that, from my understanding, would possess those who, like own it or open it or whatever. So is my understanding of what a Dybbuk box is.
Yeah. And by the way, we got to make a quick announcement here.
Thank you, Mr. T-Bone. You just
T-Bone gifting 5 subs.
I love the name Bigfoot Dwarf. That's an oxymoron. Bigfoot and dwarf. I'm teaching my 8th graders about oxymorons right now.
And shout out for Diane Boss, a member, just re-upped for her 20th month of being a member on this, almost as soon as we made the channel. Diane found us, and
Diane, you're just family now.
Yeah, Diane's family.
She's always working in her garden. I do.
Yep.
I want to get out to Forks, Washington, to see Diane and see the town that inspired my sparkly vampire.
Oh God.
So, but hey, shamelessly voracious, I agree with you. It's crazy that anyone would want one of those, real or not.
Yep.
So even if it was a knockoff, it's like, no.
Well, see, and look, shamelessly just nailed it, right? Whether it's real or not, okay? Why go there? Why go there? I've seen too many things that are not supposed to be real that are real. And I just, it's even like my favorite music, right? Like heavy metal music, even still to this day, I love listening to it and keeps me young, and
And clean shaven.
At least my head. But because I'm the shiny bald guy, right? But here's the thing, though. When I see some of these bands, and they're most of them are from like the Nordic region, there's been a couple really evil type of American bands out there. But most of these guys that come out from the death metal scene, black metal stuff, I mean, they're doing like incantations and stuff in their songs. I mean, it's like, why would you want to? I mean, I guess if you pick that side, if you think you're fighting for that side, and this is where I have to be put in the middle yet again when it comes to like the spiritual warfare, demons and angels and NHIs and all that. People wouldn't do this stuff if they didn't believe in it. And if they believe in this stuff, they can make it real. You know, there's the whole Topa thing where you get enough people or enough energy. Imagine a concert hall full of 10,000 people sitting there chanting some demon's name because it's in one of your songs. Bro, I don't want to be there when it shows up. It just really, I don't know.
It's like these young kids with their fascination when they want to look into, what is it, Anthony LaVey. And
oh yeah, there you go. Right
there we go.
The 60s hippie turned, Satanist for clicks and likes, right?
Yeah,
come on,
talk
chat.
about the dopamine hits. So what? Even his neighbors didn't like him. Here, look at me. I'm a bald man walking down the street wearing all black. Yay!
right.
I'm goth before goth came out.
Yeah.
So, and we all know one of those teenagers that got into that junk.
I think everybody does at some point, especially girls, right? Girls have the power.
Good old LaVey.
Yeah. Girls have at times in their lives that they have they're seeking power, right? They don't want to feel powerless. Everybody feels powerless, especially when they're teenagers and they're going through changes and stuff like that. And lo and behold, they always seem to end up somewhere near the occult and not where you want to go.
That they don't know anything about.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and here's the thing. Think about, us back when we were kids or whatever. There was always that, if you play the record backwards.
Yep. Sure. Now they do it on purpose. Now they just do it on purpose. They don't care.
What message are you getting if you play the record backwards?
Well, look at, one of my favorite guys from the 80s and 90s.
Which one?
Started out Merciful Fate. King
Diamond.
And then branched off to his own thing, and he had the 3 circles on his forehead. Those weren't circles. Those were 6s. 18 is actually 9. It was a cult. It was Kabbalah. It was numerology. It was Satanism. I mean, my God.
He had all that, and yet he handed me a rose off the stage at Harpo's, so he was still a gentleman.
Nice guy. Nice enough guy. His name is like Kim something. His first name is Kim. I can't remember, but his character is King Diamond, the King of Diamonds. Alice Cooper back in the day, look at all these guys. Cooper. And what was it? Judas Priest that got busted for supposedly hiding satanic messages,
it was
backwards
on the Painkiller album. I will never forget my mom knocking on my door because I was one of those Columbia House people. I had the cassette tapes, and then I moved to CDs, the 13 for a penny.
Yeah.
By the way, I probably still owe them.
Yes, sir.
But I still remember my mom knocking on my door going,
Jack Parsons.
Do you have that Judas Priest Painkiller album? Because she had seen something on TV. I'm like, nope. Not at all. I can't
think. Was it Painkiller that they went after him? I thought it was something else.
Painkiller got a lot of heat.
Oh, well.
You know, and then of course Ozzy back then with Suicide Solution.
Friends with Monsters. King,
King
Diamond.
Diamond.
Freaked me out.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Great show. But
definitely cool show. And like I said, I got to see him a few times with Merciful Fate or just King Diamond.
Yeah. Yep. I saw them with Merciful Fate when Snowy Shaw joined the Merciful Fate band because they recorded the album Time. I think it was Time with Egypt on it. And they used a drum machine to record the album because they didn't have a drummer. And then Snowy Shaw had joined, that's another guy too.
Guy Merritt said he just signed a contract with Columbia Records. He has to buy 8 more records and tapes over the next 3 years. I'm telling you, I joined Columbia House, I think a couple times. All I would do is like one time I'd put my middle initial and another time I wouldn't. And then there was another company that came out with them too. So I still have some of those tapes and the CDs. That's funny.
Yep.
Oh,
all right.
Well, Wayne, we have a graduation tomorrow to go to.
I know.
We are going to be on the road a lot tomorrow.
We got to go up north toward Frankenmuth, and then we got to go across the state
to Grand
Rapids, and then back home, and then get ready for work.
We're literally driving tomorrow almost in the shape of a triangle. You do realize that?
Yeah. Maybe we'll see something. So, all right. BMG at Michelle.
Yes, that was it. It was BMG and guy, I'm telling you.
All right, everybody. Look, I saw we had close to 40 people watching the live at one time. And thank you once again, everybody, for joining us. We hope you like this. We're not going to get to the creepy stories thing. We'll bring that in later, but just going over some of our favorite stuff about Michigan and UFOs that happened here.
And dolls that go on tour now.
Yeah. Haunted dolls that get their own tour, and you get to pay $160 some.
That was for the VIP. That's if you wanted a t-shirt too.
Well, yep. Lake Michigan is a UFO hotspot. Look, all of Michigan is a UFO hotspot. And now, by the way, just before we take off, they have confirmed that there is the standing stones somewhere in Traverse Bay. It might be East Bay, about 120 feet underwater, that there are these standing ancient stones that were set up probably by indigenous people or somebody with knowledge of tracking star movements and planets and things. So that, coupled with the water we have here, the depth of the Michigan, we have the Michigan Triangle in Lake Michigan where things seem to happen. And one of the things we're going to be doing, a couple things. Number one, we don't care what people say about the Michigan copper thing. We're going to look into that. At least I'm going to, being a geologist and earth science guy. I'm going to look into this and see how factual this is about them finding Michigan copper over in Egypt and during the Bronze Age and all that, because that means that people were coming here a long time and going up into the Michigan UP and getting all kinds of copper and probably trading with other people that were living there for it. So I'm going to check that out. And what else are we going to check out, Michelle? I thought there was something else. Oh, South Manitou Island.
Yep.
Yeah. We're going to go check out South Manitou Island. Huge stories about haunted mounds, like burial mounds, shipwrecks, and ghost stories out there.
And isn't that the shipwreck that we flew over?
Yes, we flew over South Manitou Island in my father's airplane when he owned it at the time, and you didn't do so well on the ride.
I did not do well on that little
It was
plane
bumpy
ride.
until we got over the water, and then it smoothed out, and I actually think you started feeling worse. Like it was bumpy, and this is the girl who goes on roller coasters and can do all kinds of stuff.
I'm
Yeah,
too old
used
for
to.
that
All right.
junk now.
Last thing, I see Friends with Monster says, Wayne, I've got something to show you. Okay. Email us, mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com. Send me an attachment. I'll check it out.
Strike up that conversation. And then does anyone have a good question for Luna? I'll be seeing her Tuesday. So, and that's from Hides and Long Grass.
Okay.
And I'm not seeing any responses.
Who's Luna?
But I don't know. But if you guys know how to get a hold of Hides and Long Grass, or if you have a question for Luna,
hi.
You can also
it's Hides and Long Grass.
Yeah,
how's it
you
going?
can also email those to mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com, and we will make sure that those questions get shared.
Absolutely. All right. So with that being said, everybody, we're at an hour 40. Thank you for watching us. All of you lovely people. We love you all.
My stomach is finally settling itself now.
Now that you talked about that.
And now I got it out of my
system.
system.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Have a great night. And remember, Michelle,
keep your eyes to the sky and
stay away from haunted objects.
And what goes bump in the night.
Oof, man. Why did you have to bring that up?
Sorry.
I just, yeah. Okay.
My bad.
All right. I'm out of here.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Have a good night. Peace out.